The grit was the worst part. It was not just dirt, it was city grime, a mix of oil and soot and things I did not want to identify, and it was packed deep under my nails, a permanent stain against my skin. I scrubbed them raw every night, but it never left. It was the mark of my life, of the 2 jobs I ran myself ragged to keep, of the constant exhaustion that lived in my bones. The sun was gone, leaving a bruise of purple and gray in the sky over the tops of the tenements. The wind was picking up, sharp and cool for this time of year, making the trash dance in the gutters. It was late. I figured it had to be past 6 o'clock, maybe closer to 7. My shift at the diner had ended an hour ago, and the cleaning job at the law office did not start for another 2. This was my only window to get home, see my Lily and make her dinner. My stomach growled. Lily would be hungry. I kept my head down. My back was a solid knot of pain from mopping floors and hauling bus tubs. This little girl's bike chain was a wreck, twisted tight and jammed between the frame and the gear. She'd been standing on this corner, just looking at it. Not crying, just staring with a frightening stillness. That is what got me. The lack of tears. Kids around here learned young that crying did not fix anything. I thought she was one of ours, one of the neighborhood kids, but now, seeing the bike up close, I knew I was wrong. The bike was pink, with shiny silver streamers, and not a speck of rust. It was the kind of bike that cost more than my month's rent. She was tiny, maybe 7 years old, 8 at the most. Her hair was dark, perfect ringlets that bounced when she moved, and she wore a coat that looked like real wool, the color of cream. She just stood there, hands clasped behind her back, watching me work. My tools were cheap, a single screwdriver and a pair of pliers I kept in the bottom of my beat-up canvas tote. They were heavy in my tired hands. "You gave this thing a real workout," I grunted, mostly to myself. The metal was cold. I jammed the screwdriver in for leverage, using my weight to force the link. My knuckles burned as they scraped the gear. I smelled the penetrating tang of chain oil. I smelled the faint, clean scent of the girl's coat, like laundry soap that did not come from a big box. It was strange. The contrast. Me. Smelling of bleach and old fried food, and her, smelling like a clean, quiet house I could not even imagine. I wanted to be home. I wanted to be holding Lily, reading her a book, but I could not leave this girl stranded. Broken things called to me. I guess I see myself in them. With a final, painful pop, the chain came free. I had to force it back onto the teeth, my fingers aching with the cold metal. I spun the pedal backwards, a clean, satisfying click, click, click. The sound of a problem solved. It was a good sound, one I did not hear often enough. I pushed myself up, my knees protesting. I wiped the thick black grease on my jeans. There was no point in using a rag. The jeans were already ruined. All set, kid. I tried to smile, but my face felt stiff from the cold. She as good as new. Well, almost. She did not move. She looked at the bike. Then she looked at my hands, at the black grease staining my skin and wedged under my nails. I expected her to get on and ride away. Instead, she tilted her head. A small, slow smile touched her lips. It was a smile that did not quite belong on a child's face. It was too knowing, too appraising. Then she laughed, a single, clear note that cut right through the street noise of the bus brakes and the distant sirens. She stepped right up to me, close enough that I could see the dark, thick fringe of her eyelashes. She was looking right into my eyes. The streetlights flickered on above us, casting a sick, weak yellow light over the pavement. She waited, as if ensuring she had my full and complete attention. "Marry my dad, miss." I blinked. The words were English, but they did not make sense. It was like a puzzle piece from an entirely different box. A laugh was stuck in my throat, a nervous little hiccup. "I'm sorry, sweetheart, what was that?" Kids say wild things. Lily once told me she was going to marry the mailman because he gave her stickers. The girl's expression remained perfectly, unnervingly serious. She was not playing. She took a small, delicate breath, Marry my dad, he's a mafia boss and good at cooking. The city noise, the rumble of the bus, the argument from the apartment window above us. It all faded to a dull roar. The only thing I could hear was the blood rushing in my ears. Mafia boss. The words landed in my stomach like a stone. This was not a joke. I knew it instantly, with a cold certainty that turned my blood to ice. Kids in this city, they learn some words early, but they do not say it like this, not with this flat, factual calm. I looked down the street. The shadows in the doorways looked deeper. The few men lingering by the bodega suddenly looked threatening. We were exposed. My instinct screamed at me to grab my bag, to run, to get to Lily. "You should not say things like that," I whispered. My voice was shaky. "That is a very dangerous word." "But it is true," she said, as if explaining the weather. "He gets sad. He broke 3 plates yesterday." She paused, then added, "But he makes the best lasagna. It has ricotta cheese." She looked proud. "You fixed my bike. My nanny said no one would help. She said people here are dirty." She looked back at my greasy hands. "You are not afraid of getting dirty." Before I could answer, before I could even find the air to form a word, a car appeared. It was not there a second ago, a long, black sedan, polished so clean it reflected the new streetlights like black water. It slid to the curb about 20 feet away, silent as a shark. The windows were so dark I could not see who was inside. My heart hammered against my ribs. The girl saw it and nodded, as if she had been expecting it. "That is my ride." She put her small hand on the handlebar. She did not say thank you. She just looked at me one last time, her gaze steady. "His name is Leonardo, and he is very handsome." She turned and walked the bike toward the car. A man got out of the driver's side. I could not see his face in the shadow, just that he was huge, a mountain in a dark suit. He opened the back door for her, took the bike with one hand and put it in the trunk with an ease that was almost delicate. The girl got in. The door shut with a heavy, solid thud. The car pulled away, merging into the traffic, gone. I stood there, shaking. My hands were covered in grease from a Mafia princess's bicycle. I was a single mom. I worked 2 jobs. I was poor. And I had just been invited, by an 8-year-old child, into a world that did not just chew people up. It erased them. I ran. I did not stop running until I got to my own building, my keys fumbling in my hand, desperate to get inside, lock the door, and hold my daughter. But I knew, even as I locked the 3 bolts, that it would not be enough. The connection was made. A little girl, a broken bike chain, and a word that could get a person killed. My life, the fragile, broke life I had built for me and my daughter, suddenly felt like it was sitting on the edge of a knife. My forehead hit the cheap wood of the apartment door, the metal of the peephole cold against my skin. I had just thrown all 3 bolts. I heard the chain slide home. My breathing was too loud, a desperate scraping sound in the tiny, dark hallway. I smelled the stale cabbage from our neighbor's cooking, a smell that usually meant I was home, safe, tonight. It just made me feel trapped. "Mommy, is that you?" The voice was small, sleepy, and it cut right through the panic. It pulled me back from the brink. "Lily." I turned, my bag dropping from my shoulder with a heavy thud. She was standing in the doorway of her room, which was really just an alcove off the living room. Her feet were bare, and she was rubbing her eyes. She wore the pajamas with the faded yellow ducks. She was 6 years old, and she was my entire world. "Hey, baby." My voice was a croak. I knelt and held out my arms. She ran to me, her small body warm and smelling of sleep and strawberry soap. I buried my face in her hair and just held on. I held her with the desperation of a drowning woman. This was why I ran. This was why my heart was still trying to beat its way out of my chest. That little girl on the street, the one with the expensive bike and the Mafia boss father. She was just a child. But the world she came from, it did not just swallow people like me. It swallowed children like her. and children like my Lily. My life was not a storybook. It was a ledger sheet, and the numbers were always in the red. I was Emma. I was 28 years old, though most days I felt closer to 50. I was a single mother in a city that did not care if we lived or died. This apartment was our fortress. It was 3 rooms on the 4th floor of a walk-up. The paint was peeling in long strips, and there was a map of water stains on the ceiling above my bed that looked like a country I never wanted to visit. But it was clean. I made sure of that. Bleach was cheap. I worked 2 jobs, from 6 in the morning until 3 in the afternoon. I was at the diner. I poured coffee that was too bitter and served eggs to men who never looked me in the eye. I smelled of bacon grease and stale coffee grounds when I clocked out. Then I would race across town on the bus to pick up Lily from the aftercare program, the one that cost me almost 20% of my paycheck. We would have 2 hours, 2 precious hours before I had to leave again. At 9 at night, I went to the second job, cleaning a high-rise law firm downtown, a place of glass and steel. It was quiet there. Just me and the vacuum cleaner and the smell of ammonia and expensive wood polish. I would empty trash cans full of crumpled legal papers, see names on letterheads that I sometimes saw in the newspapers. I polished desks that cost more than I made in a year. I would finish at 2 in the morning, catch the night bus home, sleep for 3 hours, and do it all again. This was my life, a cycle of exhaustion. My hands were my sacrifice. The skin was raw, the knuckles chapped and red, the nails short and stained with that city grit. I was strong. I had to be. There was no one else. There was no support. There was no family to call. Love was a 4-letter word for a sucker. I had been that sucker once. His name was Rick. He had a smile that could charm a bird from a tree and a habit of never having his wallet. He told me I was beautiful. He told me we were a team. He told me he had a plan, a big score. He left me 3 days after I told him I was pregnant. He did not just leave. He took my savings, the little bit I had, and left me with the rent past due and a stack of credit card bills in my name. So I did it alone. I went to the clinic alone. I gave birth alone, holding my own hand, biting my lip until it bled, and when they put Lily in my arms, I made her a promise. I promised her she would never know that kind of cold. She would be safe. She would be loved. I would be the wall between her and all the Ricks of the world, all the cold winds and the empty promises. And I had done it. It was hard. God, it was hard. There were nights I ate nothing but the saltines I stole from the diner, so Lily could have the milk and the last of the pasta. There were nights I cried in the shower, the water hiding my tears, the sheer, crushing weight of the loneliness pressing down on me. I was not just missing support. I was missing touch. I was missing a hand to hold. I was missing another adult to talk to about whether Lily's cough sounded bad or if her drawing of a blue tree was brilliant. I was strong, but I was so very, very tired. Now, I held my daughter in our tiny, peeling hallway, and all I could see was that black sedan, that silent, expensive, deadly car. The girl's father, Leonardo, she had said it, a mafia boss. I knew about that world. You could not live in this city and not know. It was the other side of the coin. My side was the grit, the pavement, the struggle. Their side was the velvet, the shadows, the power. It was the world of the men I cleaned up after in the law office, only darker, without the pretense of justice. It was a world of men who did not ask, they took. Men who broke things they could not have. Men who broke people. The girl said he was sad, that he broke plates, that he was good at cooking. My mind could not hold those 2 images together. The cold, powerful mafia boss, the sad father who makes lasagna. It was a contradiction that made my head hurt. It felt like a trick, a lure. Rick had been good at cooking, too. Made pancakes, fluffy and light, right before he stole my money. I kissed the top of Lily's head. Go wash your hands, baby. Mommy is going to make us some dinner. Is it spaghetti? She asked, her voice hopeful. Even better, I said, forcing a cheer I did not feel. It is macaroni and cheese, the good kind, with the powder. She cheered and ran to the bathroom. I watched her go, my little girl in her duck pajamas, safe in her small, poor world. I pushed myself up and went to the kitchen. I turned on the faucet. The water came out brown at first, then cleared. I took the soap and I scrubbed my hands. I scrubbed until the skin burned. I scrubbed to get the grease off. But I knew, as I watched the black oil swirl and go down the drain, that I was scrubbing to get him off, to get the feel of that world off me. The grease from the bike chain was gone, but the stain of the encounter, the chill of that little girl's words, it was deep. It was under my skin. It was in my blood, my small, quiet hopes for the future, a future where I maybe, just maybe, got us into a one-bedroom apartment with a working radiator, felt impossibly fragile. That girl, with her request, had thrown a rock through the thin glass of my life, and now the cold wind was getting in. Sleep did not come. It hovered. A gray, fuzzy thing I could not grasp. I lay on my lumpy mattress, listening to the sounds of the building. The couple in 5B was fighting. The baby in 5F was crying. The radiator in my own room was kicking on, a loud, metallic clanging that sounded like a hammer against a pipe. These were the normal sounds, the soundtrack of my life. But tonight, they offered no comfort. All I could hear was the velvet silence of that black sedan. All I could see was the girl's knowing smile. "Marry my dad, miss. He's a mafia boss." The words were absurd. They were the words of a child mixing up a movie she saw with reality. That is what I told myself. I must have repeated it 100 times, 1,000 times. She was just a weird, rich kid. Her father was probably just some boring, angry banker who she thought was a boss. That had to be it. But my heart knew I was lying. The chill in my bones wasn't from the drafty window. It was from the absolute certainty that she had told the complete, unvarnished truth. I got up when my alarm buzzed at 5 o'clock in the morning. I had managed maybe 1 hour of sleep. My eyes felt like they were full of sand. I dressed in the dark, pulling on my pale blue diner uniform. It smelled faintly of bleach. I checked on Lily. She was a small lump under the thin blanket, her breathing soft and even. I kissed her forehead. Her skin was warm. I felt a surge of love so fierce it was almost painful. I would protect her. I would burn the world down to protect her. I locked the 3 bolts in the chain behind me and walked down the 4 flights of stairs. The street was dark, the air cold and damp. I pulled my thin jacket tight. I kept my head down on the walk to the bus stop, my keys clutched between my fingers, a useless, jagged weapon. Every car that slowed, every man walking alone, made my stomach clench. I felt watched. I felt exposed. The diner was a different kind of misery. It was warm, at least, and smelled of coffee and hot grease. The 6 o'clock regulars were already there, the construction workers and the night shift nurses, all of them looking as tired as I felt. I grabbed the coffee pot. My shift began. "You look like hell, Emma," Maria said as she slapped a plate of eggs onto the pass. Maria was the other morning waitress. She was 50, with iron gray hair and a voice like gravel. "Your ex give you trouble again." "Just tired, Maria," I said, forcing a smile. "Bad night." "They are all bad nights," she muttered, and turned back to the grill. I moved through the motions. "More coffee, hun. You want white or wheat toast?" "Yes, the bacon is extra." It was a script I knew by heart. My body did the work. My mind was somewhere else. It was scanning the street outside the big plate glass window. I was looking for a black sedan. I was looking for a little girl in a cream-colored coat. I told myself I was being foolish. I was a nobody. I fixed a bike chain. That was it. End of story. People like that, the Mafia, they did not care about people like me. We were just part of the scenery. We were the dirty people the nanny had talked about. They would not come here. This was my world, my grimy, safe world. I was wrong. It was almost 11 o'clock. The morning rush was long gone. I was wiping down the counter, the smell of vinegar sharp in my nose, when the bell above the door chimed. My blood stopped. It did not turn to ice. It just stopped, heavy and thick in my veins. It was her, the little girl, Serafina. That was the name I had heard the driver call her. She was not in her wool coat. She wore a simple dress, dark blue, and shiny black shoes, and she was not alone. The man from the car was with her, the mountain. He stood just inside the doorway, and he blotted out the light. He was not just tall, he was wide, thick in a way that spoke of pure, dense muscle. He wore a black suit that must have cost $3,000, but it looked strained, as if it was struggling to contain him. His head was shaved. He did not look at me. He looked at everything. His eyes, small and dark, scanned the diner, cataloging the two old men drinking coffee in a booth, the layout of the room, Maria at the grill, and me. He was not a bodyguard. He was a weapon. The little girl, Serafina, walked right up to the counter. She smiled at me, that same unnerving, adult smile. "Hello, miss," she said. Her voice was clear and polite. My hand was frozen on the counter. I could feel the damp rag in my grip. "You should not be here," I whispered. My voice was shaking. "I told my father about you," she said, ignoring me. She climbed onto one of the rotating stools. Her feet dangled, not coming close to the floor. "I told him you fixed my bike and you were not afraid of the grease." The man by the door had not moved. He was just watching. That is nice. Sweetheart, but I am working. You have to go." I looked past her to the man. "She has to go." The man's gaze met mine. It was flat, empty, like looking at two stones. He did not move. Serafina rested her chin in her hands, her elbows on the counter. "My father wants to thank you. He said it was very kind. He wants us to have lunch." "Lunch," I repeated. The word sounded foreign. "I cannot have lunch. I'm at work, and I do not know your father." "I told you his name. It is Leonardo," she said, as if I were being difficult. "He's very nice. He just gets sad. He broke 3 plates yesterday." She paused. "But he makes the best lasagna. It has ricotta cheese." She was repeating herself from last night. It was a sales pitch, a terrifying, insane sales pitch from a 7-year-old. "Why, Serafina," I said, leaning closer, trying to keep my voice low. The two old men in the booth were starting to look over. Maria was watching, her spatula held in midair. "Listen to me. I am glad I could help you, but you and I, we are not friends. Your world, my world, they are not the same. You cannot come here. It is not safe." "It is not safe for you, you mean?" She said. It was not a question. I recoiled. "I have to get back to work." "He said you would say that." She reached into a small leather purse I had not noticed. She pulled out an envelope. It was thick, creamy white paper. My name, Emma, was written on the front in black, elegant script. "I cannot take that," I said, backing away. "Please, just go." "It is not money," she said, looking offended. "It is an invitation for dinner. He is cooking." She pushed it across the counter, right into the ring of water my rag had left. "He said you would not come. He said you were scared. But I told him you were not. I told him you were brave. You were not afraid of the dirt." I looked at the envelope. I looked at the mountain by the door. I looked at this tiny, composed child. This was not an invitation. It was a summons. My life, the one I had built out of scraps and exhaustion, was balanced on the edge of a knife. If I took the envelope, I was falling one way. If I refused, if I made a scene. I looked at the man by the door. I did not know what would happen. "I cannot," I said again, but my voice was weak. "I have a daughter. I have to protect her." Serafina's smile faded. She looked at me, her eyes suddenly cold, older. "I know, her name is Lily," She's 6 years old. She likes the pajamas with the yellow ducks. My breath left my body in a single, silent punch. The diner, the smell of grease, the sound of the clinking coffee cups, it all vanished. The world narrowed to this child's face. They knew my Lily. They knew her name. They knew her pajamas. The panic from last night was nothing. This was a new kind of terror. It was cold and sharp, and it went straight into my heart. This was not a request. It was not an invitation. It was a threat, delivered by a child in shiny shoes. My attempt to keep my world separate, my world of poverty and struggle from their world of power and shadows, had failed. It had failed the moment I touched that bicycle chain. I had tried to build a wall around my daughter, and I had just shown them the door. "Tell your father," I started, but my throat was dry. "He will be at the park, the one on Mercer Street, tomorrow at 5 o'clock, she said, standing up on the stool's rungs. She was not asking, she was telling me. "He wants to say thank you. You should come. Lily would like the swings there." She hopped down. She walked to the man by the door, her back straight. She took his hand. The man opened the door, the bell chiming, and they were gone. The envelope sat on the counter. It was a white square in a puddle of dirty water, a beacon of a world that had just claimed me. I was shaking. I was shaking so hard I could barely stand. I was not just being drawn in. I was being held hostage. And the ransom was my daughter. I had no choice. The words, "She likes the pajamas with the yellow ducks," had echoed in my head all night, a lullaby of absolute terror. They were not just watching me. They were watching my daughter. They knew our lives. So, I did as I was told. I picked Lily up from the aftercare program at 4 o'clock. I told her we were going to a special park, a new one, as a treat. Her excitement was a small, sharp pain in my chest. This was not a treat. This was a ransom. Mercer Street was not my world. The pavement was smooth, unbroken. The benches were new, painted a deep forest green. Even the trees looked expensive, protected by little iron fences at their bases. There were no homeless men sleeping on the grass, no broken glass in the sandpit. It was quiet, civilized. He was there, just as she said he would be. I had pictured a monster, a man in a pinstripe suit, dripping with gold, or a brutal thug with a broken nose. Leonardo was neither. He was standing by the swings, his back to me, and he was tall, but lean, dressed in dark trousers and a simple, perfectly cut gray sweater. He looked like a banker, maybe an architect, someone who worried about interest rates, not broken legs. He was watching Serafina, who was sitting on a swing, her feet dragging in the wood chips. The mountain, Bruno, was standing 20 feet away, near the entrance, pretending to read a newspaper. He was not pretending very well. His head never moved. Lily, bless her innocent heart, saw Serafina and broke free from my hand. "A new friend," she yelled, running. Serafina's head snapped up. A huge, bright smile split her face. "Lily, Miss Emma, you came." She jumped off the swing and ran to Lily, grabbing her hand. "The slide is a tunnel, come on." The two of them ran off, their high, happy shrieks cutting through the quiet dread, and then he turned. He turned, and I finally saw the man's face. He was handsome. That was the first stupid thought that hit me. It was an unfair fact. He had dark hair, cut short, and a strong, defined jaw, but it was his eyes. They were dark, almost black, and held a stillness, a profound exhaustion that I recognized. It was the same exhaustion I saw in my own mirror every morning, just colder, deeper. He walked toward me, did not smile, he did not offer a hand. He stopped a few feet away, a polite distance. "Miss Emma?" he said. His voice was low with a rough edge, like stones settling. "Thank you for coming. I apologize for my daughter's enthusiasm. She can be singular in her focus." My hands were shaking. I clenched them into fists. "You threatened my daughter," I said. My voice was a low, brittle thing. He did not deny it. He did not even flinch. He just watched me, his gaze intense, assessing. "I needed you to come. I needed to thank you properly. and I needed to know who my daughter was with. You could have just asked. A flicker of something amusement sadness crossed his face. People do not respond well when I just ask, Emma. They tend to overreact. They assume the worst. And should they not? I shot back, emboldened by my own fear. Mafia boss. That is what she said. He held my gaze. She is a child who repeats things she hears. What I am is complicated. What I am today is a father whose daughter has not smiled, really smiled, in almost 2 years, not since her mother passed away. But she smiled when she spoke of you. She said you were not afraid of the dirt. He paused. I had to see for myself. He looked over at the 2 girls, who were now climbing the slide together, Lily chattering away, Serafina nodding, listening. I do not want trouble, Leonardo. Neither do I, he said, turning back to me. I'm surrounded by trouble. It is the family business. He reached into the pocket of his trousers. I flinched. My heart hammered. He pulled out a small, flat box, velvet. This is for you, he said. I do not want your money. Iwa, it is not money, it is a gift, a thank you. My daughter's bike. It was her mother's. The last gift she ever bought her. It has been broken for 6 months. My men, they are good at many things. Delicate repairs are not among them. He pushed the box toward me. You fixed something I could not. I did not move. He sighed, a sound of deep impatience, and opened it. Inside, on a bed of white silk, was a simple gold chain. It was thin, delicate, the kind of thing I would never, ever be able to afford. I cannot, I whispered. Yes, you can, he said. His voice was not kind. It was firm. You will accept this. My debt will be paid, and then you and your daughter can go. You will never see us again. I will make sure of it. He was offering me an out, an exit. All I had to do was take the box. I looked at him. I saw the man who commanded Bruno, the man who threatened my child, and I saw the man Serafina described, the one who broke plates. The sadness was a wall around him, a fortress of ice. She said you were good at cooking, I said, the words tumbling out before I could stop them. His dark eyes focused on me, a new light in them. Surprise. She told you that, did she? Lasagna, I said, with ricotta. For the first time, the corner of his mouth twitched. It was not a smile, but the memory of one. She has a big mouth. It will get her in trouble. He looked at the girls. She likes your daughter. It is good for her. She is lonely. He was lonely. I could hear it. It was the same hollow ache I lived with every single day. The loneliness of a single parent. It was a language we both spoke. My fear was still there, a cold knot in my stomach, but something else was there too, a strange, unwanted pull of recognition. I took the box. My fingers brushed his. His skin was warm. Thank you, I said. The meetings became a strange, unspoken routine. They were not planned, they were ambushes. I would be at my park, our park, the one with the cracked pavement and the rusty swing, and the black sedan would appear. We were in the neighborhood, Leonardo would say, a blatant lie. This was not a neighborhood people like him were in. Serafina and Lily would squeal and run off to play, 2 little girls from 2 different universes, colliding in this small, neutral space, and Leonardo and I would sit on the bench, a careful foot of space between us. He brought food. He brought the lasagna. It was in a heavy ceramic dish, still warm. He brought real plates and heavy silver forks. We sat on that splintered bench in the middle of my poor, broken neighborhood, and we ate the best food I had ever tasted in my life. The man was not just a good cook, he was an artist. How? I asked, looking at the complex layers. My grandmother, he said, watching the girls. She believed food was the only thing that could fix anything, a broken arm, a broken heart. She taught me. She did not teach my brothers, just me. Why you? She said I was the only one who listened, the only one who had the patience. He looked at me. The only one who understood that anger is just a bad ingredient. It ruins the sauce. He talked. I listened. He never spoke of his business. Not directly. He spoke of his father, a hard man who left him a world he did not want. He spoke of his wife, Isabella, who loved art and hated his life. He spoke of Serafina, of his terror that he was failing her, that his world would poison her. I found myself talking, too. I told him about Rick. I told him about the diner, the endless, grinding exhaustion. I told him about my fear, the constant, gnawing fear that one missed paycheck, one bad illness, would send me and Lily tumbling into the abyss. He listened. He did not offer solutions. He did not offer money. Not again. He just listened. He watched me with that same intense focus, as if I were the only person in the world. It was a dangerous, intoxicating feeling. I was falling. I knew it, and I was terrified. This man was kind to me. He was a loving father. He was a brilliant cook. And he was a killer, I had no doubt. The stillness in him, the control. It was not normal. It was the calm of a predator, a man who had absolute power and knew it. The two worlds were colliding, and I was in the middle. I felt a connection to him, a raw, deep, terrifying connection. I saw the man, the widower, the father, and I knew the boss, the monster. The tension was pulling me apart. Then, his world showed its teeth. It was a Tuesday, my late night. I finished at the law office at 2 o'clock in the morning. The streets were slick with a cold rain, empty. I was walking to the bus stop when a car pulled up. Not the clean black sedan. This one was a dark, muscle car, loud and menacing. A man got out of the passenger side. I had seen him before, in the periphery, standing near Bruno. He was younger, with slick hair and a shark smile. "Emma," he said, his voice familiar, easy. "You are a hard woman to find, staying out late." I backed away. "I do not know you." "I am Marco, a friend of Leo's." He stepped in front of me, blocking the sidewalk. He smelled of cologne and whiskey. "See, we are all friends of Leo's, and friends worry. The boss, he is distracted. He's spending time in parks. He's baking. It is not a good look." "That is none of my business," I said, my hand gripping my keys. "You made it your business," he hissed, his smile vanishing. He jabbed a finger at my chest. "You and your kid. You are a problem, a weakness, and we do not like weakness." He grabbed my arm. His fingers dug in. Hard. "Leo, he has a soft spot, but we do not. You are going to disappear. You are going to take your kid, and you are going to get on a bus and never come back. Understand?" The terror was cold, sharp. I tried to pull my arm free, but his grip was iron. "Let go of me, or what you will call the cops." He laughed. A harsh, ugly sound. "You are his toy, sweetheart, and we are tired of him playing with you." She said to let go. The voice came from the shadows, low, rumbling. "Bruno." The mountain stepped out from an alley, his hands in the pockets of his long black coat. He looked bored. Marco let go of me like I was on fire. He held his hands up. "Bruno, hey, I was just having a word, making sure the lady was safe." Bruno did not look at me. He just stared at Marco. The boss does not like his friends being treated this way. He finds it disrespectful. "I was not, I swear," Marco stammered, the shark suddenly a minnow. "Just friendly advice." "Go," Bruno said. Marco scrambled back into the car. It sped off, its tires screaming on the wet pavement. I was leaning against a brick wall, my legs shaking so hard I could barely stand. The dream was over. The cozy chats on the park bench, the shared loneliness, the taste of lasagna. It was all a lie. This was the truth. This cold, dark, violent street. Bruno looked at me, his face impossible to read in the dim light. "You are bleeding," he said. I looked down. My arm, where Marco had grabbed me, was already bruising. My nails had dug into my own palm, and there was a crescent of blood. "He will not bother you again," Bruno stated. He pulled a clean, white handkerchief from his pocket and held it out. I did not take it. Did he send you? I whispered. Did Leonardo send you to follow me? Bruno just looked at me. The boss protects what is his. I am not his, I said, my voice rising. I am not his. I am not anything. You should go home, Miss Emma, Bruno said, his voice softening. Just a fraction. It is not safe out here. He turned and walked away, a shadow melting back into the night. I watched him go, the white handkerchief still clutch in his hand. I was not just connected to Leonardo. I was owned by him, and I had just met the rest of the family. I did not go home. I walked. I walked for hours, until the sky started to get gray in the east. The bruise on my arm was a dark, ugly purple, a handprint of violence. Marco's threat, Bruno's words, the boss protects what is his. The phrase echoed in my head, each word a hammer blow. I was not a person. I was a possession, the kindness, the shared loneliness on the park bench, the taste of his lasagna. It was all a lie, a way to purchase me. My shift at the diner started at 6 o'clock in the morning. I called Maria. I told her Lily was sick. It was a weak lie, but my voice was so hoarse. She did not question it. I could not go to work. I could not leave Lily. I spent the day in my tiny apartment, all 3 bolts on the door locked, the chain in place. I sat by the window, watching the street. I was a prisoner, and my warden was a man I had started to trust. I felt betrayed. No, I felt stupid. I had let myself believe that a man like that, a man who moved in a world of shadows and silent cars, could be normal, that he could be just a sad father. Emma, the woman who trusted no one, had been charmed by a good cook. Rick had charmed me with pancakes. Leonardo had charmed me with lasagna. I was a fool, and my taste in men was getting more dangerous. Lily was restless. She did not understand why we could not go to the park. I told her the weather was bad. She pointed to the sunshine. I told her I was tired. She put her small, cool hand on my forehead. Are you sick, Mommy? Just tired, baby, I whispered, pulling her close. Mommy is just very tired. The knock came at 8 o'clock at night. It was not a timid knock. It was not the angry pounding of a neighbor. It was 3 short, firm raps, solid, confident. I knew who it was. Lily ran for the door. Is it Mr. Leo? Is it Serafina? Lily, no. I grabbed her, pulling her back. Go to your room, now. She saw the look on my face and her eyes filled with tears. She ran to the alcove and hid behind the curtain. I looked through the peephole. It was him, Leonardo. He was alone, but I knew Bruno was in the hall. He was not in his sweater. He wore a dark suit, a crisp white shirt, open at the collar. He looked like he had not slept. He looked angry. I opened the door, leaving the chain on. It was a useless gesture, but it was all I had. Emma, he said. His voice was flat. Go away, I said. He looked at the chain. He looked at me. His eyes dropped to my arm. I had my sleeves rolled up. The bruise was vivid under the weak yellow light of the hallway. His face changed. It was not slow. It was instant. The exhaustion, the anger, it all vanished, sucked into a black hole of absolute cold. His stillness was terrifying. Who did that to you? He asked, his voice barely a whisper. You know who, I snapped. Your man, Marco. Then he was making sure I was safe. He told me to disappear. He told me I was your toy, and you were done playing. Leonardo's eyes closed for a second. He put his hand on the door, not pushing, just resting it. He's not my man. And Bruno, I pushed on, my voice rising when shaking with a day's worth of fury and terror. Your other man. He told me you protect what is yours. Like I am a car, a house, a piece of property. He misspoke. He meant it, and you mean it. Emma, he said, opening his eyes. They were dark, pleading. Let me in, please. No, I want you to go. I want you to take your money and your fancy cars and your lasagna. And I want you to leave me and my daughter alone. We are not yours. We are not anything to you." "That is not true," he said, and for the first time he sounded desperate. "Mommy," Lily peeked out from the curtain, "it is Mr. Leo. Why is he sad?" Leonardo's face crumpled, the mask of the boss shattered, and the sad father was there, raw and exposed. "Hello, Piccola," he whispered to her. "Leave," I said, my voice breaking. "Please, just leave us." Before he could answer, his phone buzzed. A short, sharp vibration, not a call, a text. He pulled it from his pocket, his hand shaking. He read the screen. I have seen fear. I lived with it, but I had never seen this. The color drained from his face. He looked hollowed out. He looked like a man who had just seen the end of the world. "No," he whispered. He looked up, his eyes wild, meeting mine. "No, no, no." "What?" I asked, my anger dissolving into a new, cold dread. "He took her," he whispered. "Who?" "Marco. He took Serafina." He slammed his hand against the door frame. "He took her from my house. My sister, but she is hurt. He took my daughter." He was not a boss. He was not a predator. He was just a father whose child was gone. The same terror that lived in my bones every day was now living in his. "He is using her," I said, the pieces clicking into place. "Marco, this is not about me. It is about you. He is making a move." Leonardo was not listening. He was turning, shouting for Bruno. The big man was there in a second. "Oh, get the car," Leonardo ordered, his voice a raw growl. "He wants to meet Pier 12. He said to come alone." "Boss, it is a trap," Bruno said, his voice urgent. "I do not care. He has my daughter." "You go alone, you die, Leonardo," I said, fumbling with the chain. I threw the door open. "And then what happens to her? What happens to Serafina?" He stared at me, his face a mask of agony. "What choice do I have? He kills her if I do not show." "He will kill her anyway, or kill you in front of her." I did not know where this was coming from. This cold logic. He is using her. He thinks she is your weakness, the same way he thought I was your weakness. The words hit him. He stopped. He looked at me. Really looked at me. "He's expecting a victim," I said, grabbing my own jacket, my keys. "He's expecting the sad dad. He's not expecting the boss." "What are you doing?" he asked. "I'm going with you." "No, absolutely not. Bruno, take her. Take Lily. Go to the safe house, now." "No!" I shouted. Lily started to cry. I ran to her, sweeping her into my arms. "You do not get to give me orders, Leonardo. I am not your property." "But Marco threatened my child. He put his hands on me. He has your child. This is not your fight. It is our fight." "Emma, you do not understand. I understand that he is a bully, and he thinks he is smart. He's expecting you to be alone and scared. He's not expecting you to show up with your distraction. He will not know what to do with me. I am the one thing he cannot predict." He stared at me, his mind racing. I could see him weighing the terrible, impossible options. "Bruno drives," I said, my voice hard. "I'm not leaving Lily. She stays in the car with him. Doors locked. You and I walk. He wants you alone. He gets you, with your weakness right next to you. Let's see how strong he is then." Leonardo looked at me for a long, silent moment. The exhaustion was gone. The fear was gone. The cold, calculating intelligence was back. He was the general. He nodded, once. "Get in the car, all of you." The wharf was a graveyard of shipping containers, smelling of salt and diesel and decay. The rain was coming down, a cold, miserable drizzle. Bruno parked the dark sedan in the deepest shadow, a block away, cutting the engine. The silence was thick. "Okay, baby," I whispered, unbuckling Lily. "We are going to play the quiet game, the most important quiet game ever. You are going to hide here, on the floor in the back. You are going to be a little mouse." You cannot make a sound, no matter what, until Mommy or Bruno comes for you. Do you understand?" She nodded, her eyes huge. The fear was a living thing in the car. I tucked her down, covering her with my old coat. "Bruno," Leonardo said, his voice low, "you lock these doors. You do not move. You do not open them for anyone but me. If you hear shots, you drive. You go to the address. You do not look back. You protect her. You protect Lily. That is your only job now." "Boss?" Bruno's voice was gravel. He hated this. "That is an order." Leonardo got out. I got out, and the cold air hit me like a slap. "Emma," he said, grabbing my arm, not like Marco. His grip was firm, but not painful. "Last chance. Stay in the car." "He has your daughter." I said, "Let's go get her." We walked out onto the pier. The wood was slick, rotten in places. Far at the end, under a single flickering yellow light, was Marco's car. "Leo." My friend Marco's voice was thin on the wind. "I knew you would come. And alone. Good boy." He stepped out of the car. He was holding Serafina in front of him, one arm wrapped around her chest. She was not crying. Her face was pale, but she was watching her father with a terrifying calm. "You brought the girl," Marco sneered, his eyes finding me. "What is this?" "Leo, I trade your new family for your old one." "Let her go, Marco," Leonardo said. His voice was dead calm. He was a sheet of ice. "No, I do not think so." Marco laughed, a high, nervous sound. "The old men, they are very unhappy. Leo, you are sloppy. You are emotional. You are spending time in parks. You are baking. It is an embarrassment. They said you went soft. I am here to prove them right." "This is between us. Let Serafina go." "She is my leverage," Marco spat. "And you are my proof." He gestured to me with his chin. "You brought your whore to a business meeting. You are soft. You are finished." Leonardo took a step. Marco pulled Serafina tighter, and I saw the glint of a gun, the muzzle pressed to her head. "Stop right there, or I swear, Leo, I will." My heart stopped. Everything stopped. "What do you want, Marco?" Leonardo asked, his hands open at his sides. "I want what you have. I want your seat." The old men agreed. "You are a liability. I am just cleaning house, starting with your favorite trash." He was looking at me. He was going to kill me. I knew it. He was going to kill me, and then kill Leonardo. But I was not his only problem. I saw the movement in the shadow, behind a stack of rusted barrels. A second man. I saw the gun lift, pointed not at me, pointed at Leonardo. They were not planning to negotiate. This was an execution. I did not plan. I just acted. "No!" I screamed. I threw myself at Leonardo, pushing him with all my strength. "Gun!" The world exploded. A deafening crack, a searing, white-hot fire tore through my left shoulder. The force of it threw me to the ground. I hit the wet planks. The air knocked out of me. "Emma," Leonardo's roar was not a human sound. It was the sound of something ancient and terrible breaking free. Marco was startled. He looked at the gunman, who was now exposed. In that 1 second of distraction, his grip on Serafina loosened. Leonardo moved. He was not a man. He was a blur. He crossed the 10 feet in 2 strides. He hit the gunman in the throat with his elbow. The man crumpled, gagging, his shot going wild into the night sky. Marco turned for Nate, raising his own gun toward Leonardo's back. A third shot, not from Marco, not from the gunman. This one was deep, a cannon blast. Marco's eyes went wide. He looked down at his chest. A dark stain was spreading. He crumpled to the ground. Silence. Just the wind, the rain, the sound of a man choking on his own blood. Bruno stepped out from behind a container, his large gun still held in both hands. He had not stayed in the car. "Papa!" Serafina screamed. Leonardo was already moving, scooping her up, burying his face in her hair, his body shaking. I got you, Mia cara." Then he was kneeling beside me. Emma, look at me." Stay with me." He ripped off his suit jacket, pressing it against my shoulder. The pain was a living thing, clawing at me. "It hurts," I gasped. I know. You are okay. You are okay." His hands were covered in my blood. He was lying. "Lily," I whispered, my teeth chattering. "The car. Lily." Bruno," Leonardo bellowed, never taking his eyes off me. "Get the car, get Lily now!" He looked back at me. The ice was gone. The boss was gone. It was just him. His face was a mask of pure terror. "Why?" he whispered, his voice cracking. "You idiot! Why did you do that?" "He was gonna kill you." You saved my life." "The boss protects what is his," I whispered, the words thick in my anemic throat. He bent his head, his forehead resting against mine. I could feel his tears, hot, scalding, mixing with the cold rain on my face. "No, Emma," he choked out. "You are not. You are... God, you are everything." I saw the headlights. I saw Bruno running. I saw Serafina, her small face streaked with tears, watching us. I looked at Leonardo. His dark eyes, inches from mine, were drowning in an agony I knew. He was a monster. He was a killer. He was a sad, broken father, and I loved him. The thought was so clear, so stupid, so true. I loved him. I had made my choice the moment I pushed him. I just hoped I would live to see what happened next. The darkness was pulling at the edges of my vision, and I was too tired to fight it. I woke up to the smell of lavender. My first thought was that I was dead. My world smelled of bleach and stale cabbage and old grease. It did not smell of lavender. My bed was a lumpy landscape of broken springs and a mattress stained with time. This was soft. I was floating on a cloud. Then the pain hit, a deep, heavy, throbbing fire in my left shoulder. It was real. I was alive. I opened my eyes. The ceiling was high, white, and perfect. Sunlight, not the weak gray light of my alley, was streaming through tall windows draped in cream-colored silk. I was in a bedroom so large it could have swallowed my entire apartment. I was wearing pajamas, soft, slippery silk, not my worn cotton. A thick, clean white bandage was wrapped around my shoulder and chest. I tried to sit up, and a bolt of white-hot agony shot down my arm. A gasp, more a sob, tore out of my throat. "Easy, Miss Emma. Please, do not move." A man was standing by the bed. He was older, with kind, tired eyes and neatly combed gray hair. He wore a dark, expensive suit, not a white coat. "My name is Dr. Alastair. You've been in and out of consciousness for nearly 2 days. 2 days. The pier, the gunshot, Leonardo's scream. Lily." "Lily!" I tried to lunge up again, the panic a fresh kind of pain. "My daughter, where is my daughter?" "Mommy." The door flew open. Lily, my Lily, ran into the room. She was not in her faded duck pajamas. She was wearing a new, soft pink dress and little white shoes. She scrambled onto the massive bed, her eyes wide and bright. She was followed by Serafina, who was holding her hand. "Mommy, we live in a castle," Lily yelled, bouncing on the mattress, "and Serafina has a room with a dollhouse that is bigger than our whole kitchen. And there is a lady who makes pancakes." I grabbed her with my good arm, pulling her against my chest. I buried my face in her clean hair. She was safe. She was safe. She was safe. Serafina approached the bed slowly. She did not bounce. She just looked at me, her dark eyes solemn. She reached out and touched my good hand. "My papa said you were the bravest person he ever met. He said you saved us." The doctor gently shooed the girls back. "Let your mother rest. You gave us all quite a scare, young lady. The bullet went clean through. It missed the artery by millimeters. You are extraordinarily lucky, but you have lost a great deal of blood. You are not to move. You are not to lift anything. For weeks." I have to work," I stammered. The words sounded hollow and absurd in this magnificent room. Dr. Alastair's kind eyes hardened, just a little. "Mister, Leonardo has taken care of your employment, both of your employments, so you are not to worry about anything but healing." He left. A woman in a neat gray dress I had not noticed came and quietly took the girls. Promising them lunch, the door clicked shut, leaving me alone in the opulent silence. A castle, taken care of. I was a prisoner, a bird in a gilded cage. I had been shot, and I had not been taken to a hospital. Because men like Leonardo did not go to hospitals. They had private doctors who kept their secrets. The door opened again. It was him. He looked worse than I felt. He had not shaved. His dark hair was a mess. He was wearing the same clothes from the pier, the dark suit and white shirt, now rumpled and stained dark brown with my blood. His eyes were bloodshot, hollowed out by an exhaustion that went beyond sleep. He just stood in the doorway, looking at me as if I were a ghost. "You are awake," he finally said. His voice was a raw scrape. "Where am I?" My voice was a whisper. "My home. My apartment." He walked into the room, his feet silent on the thick carpet. "We are on the 32nd floor. It is the safest place in the city. Bruno is outside that door. 3 more of my men are in the lobby. No one gets in." "Or out," I said. He flinched. "Or out, for now." He stopped at the foot of the bed, his hands clenched at his sides. "I thought you were dead. I watched. Emma, I held you. I thought you were gone." "Where is Marco?" His face hardened. The boss was back, just for a second. "Gone. The other man, Bruno, handled it." Handled it? The cold, clean euphemism for murder. This was his world. The world I had willingly walked into. "You said I would be safe. You lied. You put my daughter in a car with a killer. You brought us to a gunfight." "I did not. I never." He looked lost. The boss vanished. The sad father returned. "I never imagined you would. Why did you do it? Emma, why did you push me? That shot was for me. And let him kill you in front of your daughter. And what about mine? What happens to Lily locked in that car when your entire organization goes to war? What happens to me?" "I would have protected you." "You could not even protect yourself," I shouted, and the pain from my shoulder made me cry out. He was at my side in an instant, his hands hovering, afraid to touch me. "Do not, please. You will tear the stitches." He sat on the edge of the bed, his body trembling. He looked at my bandaged shoulder, and his face crumpled. "This is my fault. All of it. I was selfish. I saw you, and you were like, son. You were not afraid of the dirt. You were real. And I wanted that. I wanted it for Serafina. I wanted it for myself. I dragged you into this. I poisoned you with my life." I looked at him, the man who commanded killers, the man who made lasagna, the man who was currently crying, silent tears tracking down his unshaven cheeks. "This is who you are, Leonardo," I said, my voice quiet, flat. "This, bullets, blood, men who handle things. You cannot change this." "I know," he whispered, his voice cracking. "I know. It is the only life I have ever known. It is a poison. It killed my wife. Not a bullet, the fear, the hate. She hated me for it, and I hated myself." "I hate it too," I whispered. And I did. I hated the violence. I hated the fear. "But you are different," he said, looking up, his dark, tear-filled eyes meeting mine. "Isabella, she fought me. She tried to change me. You fought with me. You stood on that pier. You faced them." "I'm not brave. Leo, I was terrified. I am still terrified." "I know." He gently, so gently, touched my good hand. His skin was warm. My old life. My life before you. It was a different kind of terror. I was afraid of the rent. I was afraid of getting sick. I was afraid of Lily going hungry. I was afraid of being alone. So alone, I thought I would just disappear. I took a shaky breath. Your world is not safe, but the monsters are different. They are men, and you can fight men. He tightened his grip on my hand. I can fight them, he said, his voice a low promise, a vow. I will fight them. I will protect you. I will protect Lily. I will protect us. That is a promise I can keep. He stayed for 3 days. He slept on a sofa at the foot of my bed, refusing to leave. He brought me food himself, soup he made in the giant kitchen, feeding it to me when my hand shook too much. The girls were in and out, a whirlwind of happy noise, shielded from the darkness by his power. On the 4th day, he stood at the door. He was showered, shaved, and dressed in a perfectly tailored black suit. The boss was back. I have to go, he said. His voice was cold, settled. Where? Marco was not acting alone. He was, encouraged by members of my organization. The old men he mentioned, they thought I had gone soft. They thought you were a weakness. He looked at me, his eyes dark steel. I'm going to explain to them, in person, how wrong they were. Explain? I repeated, a chill going through me. Explain, he confirmed. Bruno will be outside your door. My men are everywhere. You, Lily, and Serafina are not to leave this apartment. For any reason, you are safe here. He was gone for 4 days. 4 days of silence, of living in the sky, watching the city move below me. I healed. I walked the endless, beautiful apartment. I watched Lily and Serafina become inseparable. They were sisters, in all but blood. This was my new life, my old life. The diner, the bleach, the grit under my nails. It felt like a story about someone else. My hands were soft now, healing. I knew I was never going back. I could not. I was part of his world now. I had bled for it. He returned on the 5th night. I was in the kitchen where making sandwiches for the girls, my arm aching in its sling. I did not hear him. He was just suddenly there. He was in another dark suit. He looked tired, but the storm was over. The violence in his eyes had settled. It is done, Anne, he said. The old men, they understand the new arrangement. They understand that my family is not a negotiation. They understand that I am not soft. I knew what those words meant. Men were gone, men were handled, the war was over. He had won. He had cemented his power, using the violence Marco had unleashed. So, I said, turning to face him, what now? Am I still your prisoner? Am I your property? He walked toward me, his steps slow. He stopped right in front of me. He looked at my shoulder, then at my eyes. You are the woman who took a bullet for me. You are the woman who saw the monster and did not run. He put his hands on my face, his touch so gentle it made my knees weak. Isabella, my wife, she was my weakness. I loved her, and my enemies knew it. I spent all my time protecting her from the world. But you, Emma, he smiled, a small, tired smile. You are my strength. You are my partner, if you will have me. He kissed me. It was not the kiss from the park bench, the tentative touch of 2 lonely people. It was not the desperate, frantic kiss of the pier. It was a kiss of promise. It was deep and sure, and it tasted of a future I never could have imagined. It was the kiss of a man who knew exactly who he was, and exactly who I was. He pulled back, his forehead resting on mine. I cannot offer you a normal life, Emma. I cannot promise you it will ever be simple, but I can promise you that you will never be alone, and you will never be poor again, and no one will ever lay a hand on you or our daughters again. Our daughters. I looked at him, at this impossible, dangerous, complicated man, the killer, the cook, the father, the boss. He was all of it, and I was his, not his property, his partner. Okay, I whispered. So, what now? Now, he said, his voice softening. The girls are asleep, and you look like you are starving, and I, for one, am tired of soup. He took my good hand and led me toward the kitchen. I believe I promised you a lasagna." The kitchen was vast, a cathedral of marble and stainless steel. It was a place designed for staff, for caterers, for parties of 100 people. But in the middle of the night, with the city glittering like a fallen constellation through the floor-to-ceiling windows, it was intimate. It was his. He had not taken off his suit jacket, but he had rolled up the sleeves. He was washing his hands, slowly, meticulously, as if he were scrubbing away the last 4 days, scrubbing away the blood and the gunpowder and the explanations. I sat on a tall stool, my good arm resting on the cool marble island. My shoulder throbbed with a dull, heavy ache, a constant reminder. "You are quiet," he said. He did not look at me. He was focused on the task, drying his hands on a clean, white towel. "I am processing," I said. "This is a lot. The old men, the new arrangement." He finally looked at me, and his eyes were clear. The storm was gone. He was just Leonardo. "It is over," he said. "The war is over. The organization is stable. It is clean as it can be. The street-level violence, the things Marco was pushing for. It is finished. We are moving into different ventures. Real estate, logistics, things that do not require that kind of wet work. You did that in 4 days." "I am very persuasive," he said. A shadow of the boss passed over his face. And Marco's failure was a powerful lesson for them. They saw him as a fool, and they saw me as the man whose woman took a bullet for him. In their world, that is not weakness. That is loyalty. That is strength. You earn their respect. Emma, more than I ever did with a gun. He turned away from me. He opened a refrigerator that was larger than my old bedroom. He began pulling out ingredients: ricotta, fresh pasta sheets, a heavy block of Parmesan, a bowl of rich, dark red sauce. "It is 3 o'clock in the morning, Leo," I said, a small smile touching my lips for the first time. "It is never too late for lasagna," he said, his voice serious. He placed the heavy ceramic dish, the one I remembered from the park, on the counter. "I made the sauce yesterday. Before I left. It has been simmering. It is better this way." I watched him work. His movements were precise, economical. He was not the boss, he was not the killer, he was the cook. He layered the pasta, the sauce, the cheese. With the care of an artist, he was building something. Not just dinner, he was building our new life. "My grandmother," he said, smoothing the top layer with a spoon. "She believed this was a sacrament, that you were putting your soul into the food. She said a man who would not cook for his family was a man who could not be trusted to protect them." He slid the heavy dish into the massive oven, he set the timer, and then he just stood there, looking at the oven door. "You really did it, did you not?" I whispered. "You changed your world." "I did not change my world. Emma," he said, turning to me, "I changed my priorities. My world is still here. It is dark, and it is dangerous. But it is no longer my master. Before, I was serving the organization, serving the memory of my father. Now, the organization serves me, and I serve us." He walked over and stood in front of me. He did not touch me. He just looked at my face, my healing shoulder, my eyes. "I will never be a good man. Emma, I cannot be. I have done things that cannot be undone." "I am not asking you to be a good man," I said, reaching out with my good hand, touching his chest. I could feel his heart beating, strong and steady. "I am just asking you to be our man, mine, Lily's, Serafina's." He covered my hand with his, pressing it against his heart, always. We ate the lasagna at 4 o'clock in the morning, sitting at a massive mahogany table meant for 20. The city lights our only candles. It was the best thing I'd ever tasted. The next few months were a strange dream. My shoulder healed. It left a thick, puckered scar, a permanent mark of my new life. I went back to my old apartment only once, with Bruno, to collect Lily's favorite books and her box of mismatched crayons. I stood in the peeling, cramped space, smelled the stale cabbage in the hall. I felt nothing. It was a life that belonged to a different person, a woman I barely remembered. My new home was the sky. I learned to navigate the world of Leonardo. It was a world of unspoken rules, of silent men in dark suits, of cars that appeared when you needed them, of dinners in restaurants where the check never arrived. I was not the boss's woman. I was not a trophy. Leonardo made that very clear. I became something else. The realization of what I was, of my new power, came 6 weeks after the shooting. Leonardo was in his study, a room of dark wood and the smell of old leather. He was meeting with his capos, his lieutenants, the survivors, the old men who had understood the new arrangement. I brought them coffee. I was still wearing a sling, and I felt like a waitress. "Emma, stay," Leonardo said, as I turned to leave. The men in the room shifted. They were old. Their faces were maps of old-world secrets and violence. One of them, a man named Sal, with eyes like a hawk, cleared his throat. "Boss, this is family business, not for, outsiders." "Emma is not an outsider," Leonardo said, his voice flat. "She's the only reason this family is still stable. She's the only reason I am still here. She stays." I stood by the window, my heart hammering. This was a test. They talked. They argued. Sal was the problem. He wanted to push into a new territory. He spoke of weakness in a rival family. He spoke of opportunity. It was the same language Marco had used. It was the language of hungry wolves. I watched Leonardo. His face was a mask of stone, but I knew him. I saw the muscle in his jaw clench. I saw the way his fingers tightened on the arm of his chair when he was getting angry. The sad dad was gone. The boss was seconds away from an explosion. He was about to make a decision based on dominance, on anger. Before he could speak, I moved. I walked across the room and stood behind his chair. I did not say a word. I just placed my good hand on his shoulder. He did not flinch, but I felt the tension under my palm. Ease. Just a fraction. He took a slow breath. The ice in his eyes wrecked. I looked at Sal. The old man was glaring at me, insulted. "Sal," I said. My voice was quiet, but it filled the silent room. "You talk about weakness, but you are describing a war. A war costs money. It costs men. It draws attention. All the things Leonardo has just finished cleaning up. This is not your concern, Signora," he spat, the title an insult. "It is my only concern," I said, my voice as cold as his. I was a single mother. I worked 2 jobs. I know how to run a budget. I know what happens when you spend more than you have. And a war you cannot guarantee you will win is the worst kind of expense. I smiled, a small, cold smile. Or perhaps you're just tired of the peace. Perhaps you miss the days when men like Marco could do whatever they wanted. The room went dead silent. Sal's face went pale. I had just invoked the name of the traitor. I had just, very quietly, accused him of the same. Leonardo looked at me. He was not angry. He was impressed. He was looking at me like he had never seen me before. He turned his gaze back to Sal. "Emma is correct. Her budget analysis is sound. The war is over. We are building. We are not destroying. We protect what we have. We do not gamble it away. This discussion is finished." The men filed out one by one. Sal would not look at me. When the door shut, leaving us alone, Leonardo turned in his chair and pulled me onto his lap. "My God," he whispered, burying his face in my hair. "You are terrifying." I laughed, a real, full laugh. "I told you, I am a mother. We are all terrifying." And that was the moment I understood. That was the twist. My power was not hidden. It was not some magical new strength. It was the strength I had always had. It was the strength that came from scraping by, from facing down landlords, from fighting for every scrap for my daughter. I was not a damsel. I was not a victim. I was a survivor. And a survivor knows, better than anyone, how to run a kingdom. Our life found its rhythm. It was not normal. It never would be. There were always men in suits. There was always the shadow of the world he commanded. But he kept his promise. The violence, the darkness. It stayed far away. It was a storm on a distant horizon, one that would never make landfall at our home. He was still the boss, but he was also the man who showed up for parent-teacher conferences. He was the man who taught both Lily and Serafina how to make his grandmother's sauce. We were a family, forged in grit and grease, and sealed in blood and lasagna. It was not a fairy tale. It was real. It was loyalty. It was a man who saw me, all of me, the dirt and the fear and the fight, and was not afraid. It was me, seeing a monster and finding the man. It was Serafina, a tiny, knowing girl who saw it all first, a girl who knew her father needed someone who was not afraid of getting her hands dirty. Thank you so much for listening to this story. I am curious, where are you all listening from? Let me know in the comments so we can share our thoughts and connect. Please subscribe to my channel, Mafia Boss Stories, like this video, and give it a boost by hitting that hype button so more people can hear this story.